Hey Zeid, how are you, man? So I've been doing some thinking, background thinking. Uh, so instead, and I was planning on demonstrating that on a board, like sketchboard and so on. But it's much simpler than well, I could expand on it, but I thought I would tell you about it anyway. So look who's thinking. Baba is thinking. So remember, I told you ways in the past, either you or one of your siblings, that I am able to look directly at the sun, for extended periods of time. I used to do that when I was like ways back, even when I was in Houston. I used to stand on the balcony, and look up, and then the colors and shades and shadows and spectrum changes, and I back then could notice two things. There is one disk that is more visible than the other. The other is a little bit larger. Uh, could it be just another shadow or projection of the sun itself that we don't readily see with microscope or something? It's a possibility, right? But no, I was able to discern two things co-located in the sun disk, right? Two bodies, let's say. And remember, in my previous video, I told you that an atom is a black hole, right? Uh, and the big black hole is really probably not a black hole. I do not know. It's possibly a gigantic atom, let's put it this way. But it's always two things, not just one thing. No matter what atom, anything, that is always two things. It's like attached. I remember explaining that to you, that it is like the binder, those binders, and there is somewhere where they attach the two sheets together. It's like an empty washer, and they attach the two uh, binder sides with it. It's something similar to that, right? Always like that. But now, and I mentioned to you about the spectrum of matter. There's matter, there's smaller matter, lighter matter. There are matters, right? We're really swimming in matters, right? That we don't see, we don't collocate, right? Similar to radar waves going through plastic or glass or probably wood or as well. I don't know, maybe not wood. Uh, but that's far more extensive. It's not. It's similar to the spectrum of light, right? There matter. There's no nothingness. And I made the statement ways back that if there was nothingness, or if there's nothing, not even light will make it through. Do you remember that, Zedo? But this here, what I explained to you in the last video about the black hole and how that shade of matter or dimension or spectrum shade of matter condenses near the center and then diminishes as it goes out and so on. Well, that is true, but there's more truer one that has been hovering around my brain for a long time, and that goes like this. What happened? I heard scientists not too long ago saying that they don't know what gravity is, right? And we don't know what gravity is. That's what they said. And in fact, they don't know what electricity or light is. They speak of photons and waves and. But from what I understood, what I noticed, they don't know. But now I have an idea. That idea or this idea has been hovering and like lurking around my brain for a long time. And that goes like this. If you get two black holes, such as atoms, right? Two atoms. And again, this is only a theory. How matter binds together and so on. Like you find always copper together. You find, birds of feathers flock together. And so are atoms of one matter, stick together, right? But when they do, and that's the new theory, is the positive of one atom binds with the negative of the other atom, and vice versa. So it will be like this, right? I was gonna illustrate it on a sketchboard, but I think you know what I'm talking about. But then what happens if we get a third one? And then again, I think it goes like this, right? From positive to negative to positive to negative. It's like a chain, right? Like a chain, right? This has been actually materializing in my mind for a long while, right? And what it is really is in a disturbance type, right? Atom within the atom itself, which is a black hole, that matter, that shade of matter in the spectrum, begins to flow in and out, right? Flows in and out. Why? Because there's like a total stability in space in that shadow, in that spectrum, or that shadow, such as, say, ultraviolet in the light spectrum, and so on and so forth. But there's much more than we see or observe or detect. So, right, that goes like this, like this, like this, like this, like this, right? And then that condenses or something, right? And that's what it is, they do. That's what binds those black holes or atom together. And that is what electricity is. It's a shadow of matter, right? And it moves magnets and so on like that, right? But that's it, right? Now, does that mean like a galaxy is also related to another galaxy? Well, Zaido, I think that's also the case, right? But why a group of atoms, right, in the northern of the hemisphere, like travel to the south of the hemisphere, all right? The uh, magnetic field, right? Earth's magnetic field. But that's also related to the sun, Zaid. I mean, they may not be able to see it. I don't think they're able to see it, but it's like a chain, right? Like a chain. So how do I know that galaxies are related to each other? Well, you see it in those twisters or hurricanes. I discovered this ways back, right? That when a hurricane or a twister, a tropical storm begins to circle, it doesn't travel from east to west like they show, right? They say it travels. No, no, no. What happens is it begins to be inertia. It's inert, right? When something spins, it fixes itself in space. So the Earth rotates, right? And the only movement of a hurricane that comes from Africa through the Atlantic or in the Pacific, such as typhoon, right? Tufan. It's really inert, right? It stops circling with Earth, right? It begins to form its own mass, right? And then the Earth is rotating, but this thing is, it moves it a little bit, but this one stays stationary. That's how it arrives the United States. It's really not the, it's the United States that is traveling toward that hurricane. And I noticed, low pressure cyclones or twisters, and that happens all the time, rotates from clockwise, and low pressure. High pressure rotates counterclockwise. And one day I was watching the Weather Channel, and there was this twister right near North Carolina or something like that. And somebody called and asked the weatherman, and he says, "What would it take to move this particular twister, or a depression in the atmosphere was dumping a lot of rain, right?" And he pointed out to one like it, a high pressure cyclone or depression above, right? He says, if that moves, this move, right? And that's right. That's like, I don't know, 10 years ago or more. And that confirmed what I was thinking, that there is relationship. So it's inertia. It's the United States that's traveling toward them. They slow down as they move with Earth, right? Rotation, they slow down, right? So air moves with Earth and so on. Anyways, I just wanted to tell you that the thing here is that atoms, they do, when they come together, I don't know how close they have to be. I really don't know. They either have to be in a certain small range or could be large or something. And they exchange positive to negative and negative to positive, right? And that begins to flow like that. And if it's three, then so and so. Sometimes it's a compound system, like the sun has such a relationship with each and every planet, right? So positive, negative, and then each one has its own its own link, right? So here it's more of a centralized system. It's not like a chain, right? So that's what I got really, 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 and that's what light is. That's what and it produces, and like I said, it produces form of the shade of matter. One is called light, one is called electricity, and so on and so forth. Uh, it's far more complex than that, but I really don't know. I mean, this is all I know. And the other thing I know is like every planet that is really circular in shape and so on was born by the main black hole of the galaxy, and then as it moves out, it cools off and so on, and the more energetic body like sun captures those dying or fading stars. Like Earth, for example, was actually a star, right? Was much bigger, and everything that is circular actually was formed in the center of the galaxy, around that black hole. Well, that's the keyword. Like when two atoms group together, they form a chain, right? Positive to negative, negative to positive, and they chain. Unless it's like Earth or Mars, right? Then atoms basically bind through something bigger, right? I don't know. Maybe the sun, for example, like I told you, it goes to like Earth, Mercury, and so on and so forth. Each one on its own. So there's like one main central system that uh, uh, binds with smaller planet and systems, and then there's the chain. Like for example, copper atoms, they all chain, right? Relate to each other in chain, right? So that's why if you have a wire, from one end to another, you can activate that field from the spectrum of the shade of matter, and then that flows, right, between atoms and so on and so forth. I don't think anything is moving. It's just that shade of matter begins to condense, and similar to what happens in the center of core of the galaxy, condensation and then dissipation and so on. Okay, well, that's all. Guess who's thinking? Otherwise, you can disregard all that. I hope you're doing fine, son. I really do. Love you. Bye now.